This year is not just another page on the calendar. 2025 is your invitation to rebuild, not because you've been broken, but because the future demands a stronger, wiser, and more purposeful version of you. Think about it. Everything around you is constantly evolving. Technology, business, opportunities. The only question is, are you evolving with it, or are you carrying the same patterns, the same excuses, and the same comfort zone from the past? Rebuilding starts with awareness. You must look in the mirror and ask, what story am I telling myself that no longer serves me? The truth is, your past mistakes are not your prison. They are your lessons. But only if you choose to extract the wisdom instead of replaying the pain. Next, shift your mindset from limitation to possibility. Every obstacle you face is raw material for growth. The very pain you fear is the brick that will build your future foundation. The problem is never the challenge. The problem is the meaning you give it. Change the meaning, and suddenly your limitations become your leverage. Awareness creates transformation, and without it, no real change is possible. Most people drift through life reacting to circumstances rather than consciously shaping them. They live inside patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior that were programmed years ago, often in childhood or during painful experiences. These patterns become invisible walls, silently dictating choices, sabotaging opportunities, and shaping identity. Awareness is the light that exposes those walls. It's the moment you pause and recognize, I'm not my past, I'm not my fear, I'm not my excuses. That realization alone is the first spark of freedom. Consider the way habits form. At first, they are small choices repeated over time, eating late at night, avoiding difficult conversations, doubting your abilities. None of these seem catastrophic in a single moment. But when repeated consistently, they create a system of living. That system becomes invisible. You don't even notice it anymore. You believe it's just the way things are. Yet it isn't the way things are. It's the way you've practiced them to be. Awareness is the process of stepping outside that autopilot system and observing it with honesty. Think of awareness as the architect's blueprint before construction begins. If you want to rebuild your life, you must first know what stands where. What beliefs are shaping your choices? What emotions are driving your reactions? What stories are you telling yourself every time you fail, succeed, or even wake up in the morning? These stories matter because they are the foundation of your identity. And the truth is, identity drives behavior far more than goals do. People can set goals, but if their identity contradicts those goals, sabotage is inevitable. Awareness bridges that gap by shining light on the hidden identity you've been carrying and asking if it truly serves the life you want. For example, many people say, I'm not disciplined, or I've always been bad with money, or I can never keep a relationship. These aren't facts, they're unconscious identities reinforced by years of repetition. Without awareness, you'll continue to act in ways that confirm them. With awareness, you begin to separate your identity from your history. You realize that what you've practiced is not who you are, but who you've been. And if you've practiced one pattern, you can practice another. That's the gateway to transformation. Awareness also demands courage because it often reveals uncomfortable truths. It's easier to blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck than it is to look in the mirror and admit where you've been settling. But until you acknowledge the role you've played in your current results, you cannot change them. Responsibility begins with awareness, and responsibility isn't about guilt or shame, it's about power. The moment you take responsibility, you reclaim the power to change. Education and personal growth always begin with awareness. A student cannot learn if they believe they already know everything. A leader cannot improve if they refuse to see their blind spots. Growth is never about perfection, it's about recognition. When you recognize the exact thought that limits you, you can replace it. When you recognize the exact behavior that keeps you stuck, you can design a new one. When you recognize the exact belief that makes you doubt yourself, you can challenge it with evidence of your strength. Awareness is not passive, it's active attention, it's noticing your emotions without being ruled by them, it's observing yourself, and questioning whether it's empowering or destructive. It's catching yourself in the moment of making an excuse and asking, is this who I want to be, or is this just who I've been? This kind of awareness transforms you because it shifts the power from unconscious reaction to conscious choice. Think of transformation as a fire. Awareness is the spark that ignites it. Without the spark, the wood stays cold and lifeless. With it, energy is unleashed, warmth is created, and everything around it changes. The spark itself may look small, but its potential is massive. The same is true for you. One small moment of awareness, catching yourself repeating an old pattern, can be the catalyst for an entirely new life direction. So, awareness is not just a concept, it is a practice. It is developed through reflection, journaling, meditation, honest conversations, and the willingness to see things as they are rather than as you wish they were. The more you practice awareness, the more patterns you uncover, and the more patterns you uncover, the greater your power to transform them. Every extraordinary leader, athlete, or innovator you admire has mastered this skill. They notice what others ignore. They see their own habits, emotions, and decisions with clarity, and that clarity gives them the power to change course instantly. Transformation is not reserved for a chosen few. It is the result of awareness practiced consistently. When you bring light to the areas of your life that were once hidden, you gain the freedom to choose a new path. You stop living in unconscious repetition and start living in conscious creation. And that is why awareness creates transformation. It awakens you to the fact that you are not stuck, you are not broken, and you are not defined by your past. You are simply unaware of your potential. And the moment you see it, you cannot unsee it. That vision is the beginning of a new you. Shifting from limitation to possibility is the bridge between where you are now and the life you desire. Most people live trapped in the narrow corridors of I can't, it's impossible, or that's just not for me. These thoughts become self-fulfilling prophecies because the mind works to prove what it believes. When you believe you are limited, the universe conspires to show you limitation. But the moment you shift your focus from what you cannot do to what is possible, everything changes. Possibility isn't wishful thinking. It's a conscious decision to see opportunity where others see obstacles. Every challenge, every setback, and every failure carries a hidden seed of possibility. The key is not in avoiding problems, but in recognizing the potential within them. For example, a financial setback may feel devastating, but within it lies the opportunity to learn discipline, strategy, and resilience. A failed relationship may feel like rejection, but it can teach you the importance of boundaries, self-worth, and clarity in what you truly want. Every difficulty you face is raw material for growth, but only if you choose to see it that way. Limitation is a lens, possibility is another. You get to choose which lens you will wear every day. Possibility begins with questioning the narratives you've accepted as truth. Often your limitations are not real, they are inherited. They are lessons you learned from authority figures, society, or past experiences that convinced you to shrink your vision. You may have heard, "You're not talented enough," or "This path is too risky," and without questioning it, you adopted it as fact. Shifting to possibility requires saying, "What if that isn't true? What if I am capable beyond what I've been told?" Possibility is a mindset that says yes before you see the proof. It moves first, learns on the way, and grows exponentially. This mindset shift is not magical, it is practical and strategic. When you operate from possibility, you begin to ask questions that others never consider. How can I solve this? Replaces why is this happening to me? What can I learn? Replaces why me? Who can help me achieve this? Replaces I have to do it alone. The difference between limitation and possibility is not in resources or talent. It is in the questions you ask yourself and the actions those questions generate. Possibility generates solutions, limitation generates excuses. Moreover, shifting to possibility requires courage because it means stepping into uncertainty. Possibility is not safe. It challenges your comfort zone, confronts your fears, and pushes you to act even when outcomes are unknown. But this is where growth happens. Every person who has ever achieved extraordinary results has operated from possibility. They looked at barriers and saw opportunities. They looked at failure and saw lessons. They looked at fear and saw a compass pointing toward growth. Possibility turns what could be a roadblock into a stepping stone, and what could be a dead end into a new beginning. The science of the mind supports this. Your brain is wired to reinforce patterns it focuses on. If you continually dwell on scarcity, limitation, or doubt, neural pathways strengthen, making those thoughts automatic. But when you consciously focus on possibility, new pathways form. You literally rewire your brain to see potential and solutions rather than barriers. This is not theory. It is how transformation works at a neurological level. Your thoughts are creating your reality, and by choosing possibility, you create a reality of expansion rather than confinement. Possibility also fuels creativity and action. When you limit yourself, you operate out of fear and hesitation. You hesitate to try, hesitate to speak up, hesitate to step into new opportunities. Possibility eliminates hesitation because it generates hope, energy, and clarity. You see options where before there were none. You discover resources within yourself and around you that you didn't realize existed. Possibility opens doors because it changes your perception of what is achievable. Ultimately, shifting from limitation to possibility is a declaration of empowerment. It says, I refuse to be defined by what I think I cannot do. I refuse to be confined by the beliefs of my past. I choose to see what can be, not what is. It transforms fear into curiosity, failure into insight, and obstacles into opportunities. When you live in this state, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become an architect of your life. Your world expands not because conditions have changed, but because your mind has. This is the essence of rebuilding yourself in 2025. Awareness gives you the blueprint, but possibility gives you the path forward. One conscious decision to shift your perspective can alter the trajectory of your life. You begin to operate not as a person limited by what has been, but as a creator of what can be. You begin to see challenges as invitations, setbacks as lessons, and every moment as a chance to grow beyond your past limitations. Possibility is not abstract, it is actionable. It is the mindset that turns intention into reality, vision into achievement, and potential into transformation. Building unshakable standards is the foundation of lasting personal transformation. Many people live their lives reacting to circumstances rather than creating them, constantly adjusting their goals, behavior, and expectations to match their environment. They allow conditions, moods, and the opinions of others to define what they will accept from themselves. The result is inconsistency, frustration, and stagnation. True growth, however, begins when you set standards that are non-negotiable, standards that define who you are and what you will no longer compromise regardless of circumstances. Standards are not the same as goals. Goals are outcomes. Standards are the principles and expectations that guide behavior daily. You can achieve a goal once and return to old habits, but a high standard is a constant reference point that shapes every decision you make. For instance, someone may set a goal to lose 10 pounds, but if their standard is to prioritize health, exercise regularly, and choose nourishing foods, the results are sustained and growth becomes permanent. Standards dictate not what you hope to achieve, but who you commit to being every day. The power of standards lies in their ability to eliminate excuses. When your standards are clear and unshakable, excuses lose their power. You no longer say, I don't have time or I'm too tired, because you have defined what you will accept from yourself. Standards create consistency even when motivation fluctuates. Motivation comes and goes, but standards, once internalized, become automatic. They guide your actions in moments when discipline alone might fail. They serve as the invisible architecture of your life, silently ensuring that every choice aligns with your vision. Building unshakable standards begins with self-awareness and honesty. You must examine the areas where you have been compromising and ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Many people allow low standards in relationships, finances, health, and personal development because it's comfortable, familiar, or socially acceptable. But comfort never creates transformation. Growth begins at the edge of discomfort. It begins when you decide that mediocrity is no longer acceptable and that you will hold yourself to a higher benchmark. Consistency is the proof of standards in action. Standards are not theoretical. They are lived through daily rituals, choices, and behavior. They manifest in how you treat yourself and others, in how you respond to challenges, and in the boundaries you maintain. For example, a person with a standard of integrity will make honest choices even when no one is watching. A person with a standard of excellence will deliver their best work regardless of recognition or reward. Standards are expressed through action, and repeated action turns them into habits that define character. Another critical aspect of standards is accountability. High standards are meaningful only if you enforce them on yourself. It's easy to set lofty expectations but ignore them when it becomes inconvenient. Real standards require vigilance, reflection, and sometimes the courage to make difficult choices that others may not understand. They demand that you prioritize long-term growth over short-term comfort, that you choose discipline over convenience, and that you act in alignment with your values even when it is uncomfortable. Standards also influence the environment you attract. People, opportunities, and circumstances tend to align with the expectations you hold for yourself. When your standards are high, you naturally draw individuals who share similar principles and repel those who do not. Opportunities emerge that match your level of readiness, and challenges appear that are designed to stretch you further. In this sense, standards are not just internal. They shape the external world as well. Finally, unshakable standards create a sense of self-respect and empowerment. When you honor your standards, you reinforce your identity as someone who is disciplined, capable, and committed. You stop living reactively and start living proactively, taking full responsibility for the quality of your life. This is where transformation becomes sustainable. It is no longer dependent on fleeting motivation, luck, or external validation. It is built on the solid foundation of personal integrity, unwavering expectations, and consistent action. Rebuilding yourself in 2025 begins with deciding who you are willing to be and what you will no longer compromise. The moment you establish standards that cannot be negotiated, you set yourself on a path of continuous growth, unstoppable momentum, and extraordinary achievement. You move from being a person who hopes for change to a person who demands it of themselves every single day. High standards are not a punishment. They are the roadmap to the life you are capable of creating, the life that reflects your true potential, and the future you refuse to settle for. Breaking the cycle of excuses is one of the most powerful steps you can take toward rebuilding yourself. Excuses are comforting. They justify inaction, preserve the status quo, and protect you from accountability. But they are also the silent killers of potential. Every time you say, "I can't because," or "it's not the right time," you are agreeing to live beneath your capabilities. Excuses are invisible chains that prevent you from stepping into your full power. If you want transformation in 2025, breaking free from excuses is non-negotiable. Excuses often arise from fear, whether fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of discomfort. They are the mind's way of avoiding growth. It convinces you that external factors are to blame: the economy, other people, lack of resources, or bad timing. While circumstances can be challenging, they do not define your limits. Excuses are stories you tell yourself to justify why you aren't doing what you know you must. The moment you recognize that excuses are self-imposed barriers, you reclaim the power to act. Breaking the cycle begins with radical honesty. You must look at your life and identify where you have allowed excuses to dictate your choices. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What am I afraid of? Which excuses am I hiding behind to preserve comfort? Awareness alone is not enough, but it is the first step. Once you see the excuses clearly, you can begin to dismantle them one by one. The key is to separate reality from perception. Challenges exist, but excuses exist in your interpretation of those challenges. Shift the narrative, and suddenly the obstacle becomes an opportunity to grow rather than a reason to stop. Action is the antidote to excuses. You cannot think, plan, or strategize your way out of them forever. Action creates momentum, and momentum shatters the mental justifications that keep you stuck. When you take deliberate steps toward your goals, no matter how small, you prove to yourself that excuses do not control you. Every action reinforces the belief that you are capable, resourceful, and committed. This is how confidence grows, not from luck or external validation, but from repeated proof that you can execute despite fear or discomfort. Another critical aspect of breaking excuses is embracing responsibility. Responsibility is not blame, it is ownership. It is saying, regardless of circumstances, I am responsible for my life, my results, and my growth. When you take ownership, excuses lose their power because you no longer wait for permission, ideal conditions, or external approval. You stop asking, why me, and start asking, what can I do? The shift from a victim mentality to a responsible mindset is transformative. Responsibility empowers, excuses disempower. Breaking the cycle also requires setting clear boundaries. Many excuses arise because people allow their energy to be hijacked by distractions, toxic relationships, or unnecessary obligations. By establishing boundaries, you protect your focus, your time, and your energy. This is not selfishness. It is essential for growth. Excuses thrive in chaos and distraction. By controlling what you allow into your life, you reduce the opportunities for excuses to appear. Discipline and consistency are the tools that reinforce this process. Excuses often win because people rely on motivation alone, which fluctuates. Discipline does not fluctuate. It is a habit, a structure, a daily commitment to act according to your values and standards regardless of mood or circumstance. Consistency compounds over time, and repeated action slowly erodes the patterns of avoidance and justification. Finally, breaking the cycle of excuses transforms your identity. Each time you choose action over justification, you reinforce the belief that you are capable, resilient, and proactive. You begin to see yourself as someone who gets results, who overcomes obstacles, and who does not allow circumstances to define destiny. This shift in identity is profound because your identity drives behavior more than any single goal or plan ever could. Rebuilding yourself in 2025 demands that you refuse to let excuses run your life. Excuses are the easiest thing to cling to, but they also represent the smallest and most comfortable version of yourself. Growth, fulfillment, and extraordinary achievement exist on the other side of accountability, courage, and action. When you break the cycle of excuses, you not only reclaim control over your life, you open the door to possibilities, standards, and transformation that once seemed out of reach. The choice is yours. Continue living under the weight of excuses, or step boldly into the life you were meant to create. Designing your future daily is the key to transforming ambition into reality. Many people approach life as if progress happens by chance, waiting for opportunities, motivation, or the right moment to take action. But the truth is, the future is not something that happens to you. It is something you create deliberately, day by day, choice by choice. Rebuilding yourself in 2025 is not about a single dramatic decision or a moment of inspiration. It is about designing your life consistently, with intention, focus, and discipline. The concept of designing your future daily begins with understanding that small, repeated actions compound into massive results over time. Most people underestimate the power of daily habits because they are invisible in the moment. Skipping one workout, procrastinating on a task, or allowing negative self-talk may seem insignificant today, but repeated over weeks, months, and years, these actions shape the trajectory of your life. Conversely, investing in yourself every day, reading, learning, exercising, setting priorities, and reflecting, creates momentum that steadily propels you toward your goals. Designing your future is about mastering these small, daily decisions that ultimately determine your success. Intentionality is at the heart of daily design. Living without a plan is like sailing a ship without a rudder. The currents of life will take you wherever they please. But when you design your day with purpose, every action serves a higher goal. This requires clarity about what you want, why you want it, and how your daily behaviors align with that vision. Intentionality transforms mundane routines into building blocks for greatness. The coffee you drink, the emails you send, the conversations you choose to have all become instruments of progress when guided by a clear purpose. Discipline plays a crucial role in daily design. Motivation fluctuates. Some days energy is high, other days it is low. Relying on motivation alone is like trying to drive a car with a failing engine. You won't get far. Discipline ensures that even when you don't feel like it, you act in alignment with your goals and standards. It bridges the gap between intention and execution. Each disciplined choice, no matter how small, reinforces your ability to stay consistent and builds the confidence that you can create the life you envision, regardless of external circumstances. Reflection is another essential component of designing your future daily. Without pausing to assess what is working, what is not, and where you are headed, your actions risk becoming reactive rather than proactive. Daily reflection allows you to recalibrate, celebrate small wins, and adjust your approach to maximize impact. It transforms experiences into learning opportunities and ensures that your actions are aligned with the person you want to become. Reflection turns repetition into progress, preventing you from spinning your wheels in effort that doesn't matter. Environment also matters when designing your daily future. The people you spend time with, the media you consume, and the physical space you occupy all influence your behavior, energy, and mindset. Surrounding yourself with positivity, ambition, and accountability creates a system that supports your growth. Conversely, allowing negativity, distraction, or toxic influences into your life undermines your efforts. Designing your future daily is not only about what you do internally, but also about curating external conditions that make success inevitable. Setting micro goals and structuring your day around them is a practical way to operationalize this principle. Instead of overwhelming yourself with the enormity of a long-term vision, break it down into actionable steps that can be accomplished each day. Every completed task is a proof point that reinforces your capacity to act. These micro wins create momentum, build confidence, and gradually shape a life that aligns with your highest aspirations. Finally, designing your future daily cultivates resilience. Life will always throw unexpected challenges, setbacks, and distractions your way. Those who live reactively become derailed by each obstacle. Those who design their days intentionally, however, maintain alignment with their priorities and adapt without losing sight of the bigger picture. Daily design creates a sense of control, purpose, and agency, empowering you to respond rather than react. In 2025, rebuilding yourself requires the understanding that extraordinary outcomes are the result of ordinary actions executed consistently. Each day is an opportunity to sculpt your future, to invest in your growth, and to embody the person you are becoming. It is not the grand gestures, but the deliberate, disciplined, and reflective actions repeated day after day that determine your destiny. Designing your future daily transforms abstract dreams into concrete reality and ensures that when you look back, you see a life that was not left to chance, but consciously and powerfully created by you. Serving beyond yourself is the ultimate expression of personal growth and fulfillment. Rebuilding yourself in 2025 is not only about achieving your goals, raising your standards, or mastering your habits. It is also about contributing to something greater than yourself. True transformation is incomplete if it exists in isolation. When you focus solely on your own advancement, your achievements may bring temporary satisfaction, but lasting fulfillment comes when your growth becomes a force for positive impact in the lives of others. Service magnifies the significance of everything you do. Serving beyond yourself begins with the recognition that your life is interconnected with those around you. Your actions, words, and decisions ripple outward, influencing family, friends, colleagues, and even strangers. Each choice you make has the power to either elevate or diminish those around you. When you consciously choose to act in ways that uplift others, you amplify the value of your own growth. Your knowledge, skills, and resilience no longer serve only you. They become tools to inspire, educate, and empower others to rise as well. This is the multiplier effect of service. Your impact grows exponentially when it extends beyond personal benefit. Service is not about grand gestures or recognition. It can begin with small, consistent acts of generosity, mentorship, or support. Listening deeply to someone's struggle, sharing your knowledge to help another succeed, or stepping into a leadership role to guide a team, these everyday acts of service create profound change. What may seem insignificant in the moment often seeds transformation that you cannot immediately measure. By serving others, you expand your perspective beyond self-interest, develop empathy, and cultivate a sense of purpose that is far more enduring than temporary gratification. Contributing beyond yourself also challenges and elevates your character. When your focus shifts from self-centered goals to collective impact, you develop patience, humility, and resilience in ways that personal ambition alone cannot teach. Service requires commitment even when it is inconvenient, courage even when it is uncomfortable, and integrity even when no one is watching. These qualities, nurtured through giving and supporting, strengthen your identity and reinforce the habits and standards you have been cultivating in the process of rebuilding yourself. Serving others also creates a feedback loop that accelerates personal growth. As you guide, mentor, or support someone else, you encounter new perspectives, challenges, and opportunities to refine your skills. Teaching or helping others forces you to clarify your own thinking, deepen your knowledge, and stretch your capacity for problem solving. Every time you elevate someone else, you elevate yourself. Contribution becomes a vehicle for mastery, reinforcing the principles of awareness, possibility, discipline, and accountability that you have already built into your life. Moreover, service cultivates a sense of connection and belonging, which is essential for sustained motivation and fulfillment. Human beings are wired for relationship and impact. Achievements without meaningful connection often feel hollow. When you serve, you align your efforts with a greater purpose, creating a legacy that transcends the limitations of time and circumstance. Your growth gains context and significance because it becomes part of a broader story that touches lives and inspires change in ways you may never fully witness. Service also acts as a compass during moments of doubt or struggle. When personal challenges arise, and they will, focusing on how you can contribute to others' lives can reignite motivation and provide clarity. It shifts attention from what is missing or difficult in your own life to what you can give, reinforcing resilience and perspective. The act of serving reminds you that you are not defined solely by setbacks or limitations. You are defined by the impact and value you bring to the world around you. Rebuilding yourself in 2025, therefore, cannot be complete without integrating service into your journey. Growth, awareness, standards, discipline, and action are powerful, but they reach their fullest expression when applied in service to others. Contribution transforms personal success into significance, turning accomplishments into purpose and dreams into a legacy. The more you give, the more you grow. The more you elevate others, the higher you rise. By choosing to serve beyond yourself, you step into a cycle of empowerment that is unstoppable. Your personal transformation becomes inseparable from the transformation you inspire in others. Your life gains meaning not only because of what you achieve, but because of how your achievements improve the world around you. True fulfillment, sustainable impact, and lasting legacy emerge when the focus expands from self to service. Serving beyond yourself is not an obligation. It is a privilege and a responsibility that cements the real value of your growth, making 2025 not just the year you rebuild yourself, but the year you leave a lasting mark on the world.